Ciao guys, Vive here. So in this video I want to talk to you a little better about the visuals and the screen on the new Pimax 5K Plus. We saw already in the true lenses comparison in the last video that anyway you can find in the description below or in the card over here. It's very interesting, so I really suggest you to check it out and then come back here so we can talk about it, because over there many times you can't really show everything because those lenses, these screens are made really for your eyes and not for a camera. So I want to describe everything a little better, go more in depth about the screen to really understand and let you understand if this is the real VR 2.0 or there's still stuff to improve, and overall what to expect from this screen and those visuals. So let's get to it. Okay, here we are. So let's start to talk about the screens on the new Pimax 5K Plus, where here we have two custom-made LCD display, 2560 by 1440 resolution with a total of 7.5 million pixels and an RGB pixel arrangement. Now, we have to start talking about the LCD display anyway. So these screens are not the best as brightness, colors, contrast and everything because our LCD display. We saw already LCD display used like in the Oculus Go or used on the Lenovo Explorer as the example, compared to the one that we have on the Vive Pro, the Vive, the Oculus, even if it wasn't the brightest and the most vibrant display, or the Odyssey Plus and the Odyssey that are like the best example of good screens, by the way. Well, this isn't an LCD display, so if you have to compare it in your mind, think about like Samsung Galaxy phone where the screens are super punchy and perfect compared to maybe the old iPhone, the iPhone 8, the iPhone 7 and everything, where there weren't bad screen over there, but you could tell right away the difference between an OLED and not the OLED. Well, this is the same difference that you're gonna have on this display, where you have some perks of course because of the LCD display, but you also have the drawback that the colors are not as vibrant, the blacks are not as black. That makes it a little difficult like in a very dark games to play because it's really hard to spot the difference of the shade of like blacks. But overall is not a bad screen for that. When I compare these to like the Windows Mixed Reality, like the Lenovo Explorer, I have to say they're very similar in terms of color, contrast and everything, but this is a little better. What of course these have a difference is the FOV, but we're gonna talk about that in a little. For resolution is also very similar because all these generation 1.5 of VR headset and maybe generation 2.0 like they call it, well, they all have the same vertical resolution. That means that pretty much you're gonna have the same resolution overall in games, and you're gonna notice pretty much the same jagged edges and everything. And here you're gonna notice a little more these edges because of RGB pixel arrangement, where the RGB are actually not like a pen tile that are in diagonal, but are in vertical and horizontal. So that makes the pixel more and more noticeable, but makes the readability much better. We saw it in the True Lenses video directly in the optical test, where we saw like the letters on the bottom that were very readable directly with the Pimax 5K Plus, and this is actually the perk of the RGB display. That is the reason why I liked it a lot and I prefer so far to the pen tile. But this is a little battle that they have like between one or the other, and it's really hard to like decide which one to get, because in a case the screen door effect is less, in the other the readability is better, the clarity is better, but you have more screen door effect. And well, this is really up to you, what do you prefer at the end. And talking about the screen door effect, of course this is very noticeable. The screen door effect is less noticeable of course in the first generation headset like the Oculus and the Vive, but when you compare it to the generation 1.5 is the most noticeable over there. It's noticeable like as much as a Lenovo Explorer. It's kind of weird that we are comparing to it, but the technology on the display is very similar there. And I wanted to go a little back to talk about the blacks in the display, because on a way they're not good as much as the other are not AMOLED displays. So of course in the AMOLED displays those pixels are completely turned off. It's like if you turn off that part of the screen, so are not noticeable. But here, even if they're noticeable and the blacks are not perfect black, the nice thing that you can notice is the fact that having a wider FOV, at the end of the day you notice like not as much, because The black part, when you're gonna see like the end of the screen directly, is not gonna happen in this section over here, so with the classic goggle effect, but it's gonna happen much further. So you're not gonna notice so much to be in a dark gray area instead of the black area, but it's something that you have to say because the blacks are not so perfect. If I could get probably the OLED version of this one, I didn't try yet, but probably I would go for it because better screens, better color, better contrast, better black with a wider FOV, that would be like a win-win situation. But for now, this is not the situation in this one. It's not a bad screen, but you have to be aware the AMOLED, talking about the screen directly, are much better. And of course, the perk of this headset is not actually the display itself, but is the FOV, because this is the only one and the first VR headset with a wide FOV. How this FOV happened? Actually, it happened for these lenses that are custom made. Fresnel lenses are very big, actually the biggest we ever seen on a VR headset, and these lenses make like the magic happen. They totally use this super huge display, as you see for the footprint of the headset itself, to make the visual much wider than what you are used to in the regular VR headset. So before we were talking about the goggle effect, the fact to have like this goggle in front of your eyes and able to see like through those. Well, in this case, it's not a goggle effect anymore, but we'll call it like a ski mask effect, or like if you have an helmet when you go on motorbike. And these lenses have a lot of improvement actually. They're very good for God rays, where are barely noticeable. Actually, they create a little of a glaring around, but not God rays at all, like the days of the Oculus Rift with these like big rays are completely gone, so don't worry about it. And the clarity in the central part is very good. That's due also to RGB pixel arrangement, and it of course helps a lot. But I have to say that the sweet spot is the smallest I ever seen in a VR headset. But here we have to talk a little better on what is the sweet spot, because many people confuse the sweet spot with the clarity. So the sweet spot is the point in the lenses where you can put your eyes in front and you're gonna see everything clear without distortion. So it's like, how big is the part where I can put my eyes on and having the best visual? Well, the best example of very good sweet spot is actually the Oculus Go, where you can put your eye pretty much in every part of the lenses and you're gonna see very well. It doesn't have even an IPD adjustment because it doesn't really need it for like people that are around the average. But here is totally another story. You have to be exactly in the exact point to have the right visual, because if you get out of it, you're gonna have a lot of distortion around, a lot of barrel effect and everything, and also chromatic aberration that they don't happen usually in this headset if you put it on in the right way. But in the moment that you put the eye right out of your IPD, right out of the right spot to have it in the vertical part as well, well, they're gonna appear pretty much everywhere. Now, talking about the sweet spot, I have to say that of course was much more difficult, because here we're talking about a very wide FOV, and this is the first company that actually came out with a wide FOV, and that's why we're not seeing yet probably from other company, because we want to do it in the right way, and it's very hard right now for the technology we have in the lenses on the screen. Probably we have to use like flexible screen and are very expensive, so bringing something for the consumer with this FOV is very difficult. They did it and they have a lot of pride on it, and I'm very happy they did it, because we have to start somewhere. But if you know about technology, the first person arrived is never the best after all. So this is not gonna be perfect as FOV, but it's great that we have it right now and you can already enjoy it in a way. Now, when we talk about the FOV, as we said, there are 3 different ways to set it up in the software. There's 130 degrees, that anyway more than all the other VR headsets, but I don't really suggest it, like it's not why you buy this one anyway. There's 150, that is the normal, that is a one suggested by the way from me, and the 170 degrees, that is the widest. Why I don't really suggest the widest? Well, because at the edges anyway everything is gonna be pretty much distorted, so you're not gonna be able to see it, but you're gonna just see light over there, and you're gonna have to render much more pixel. That doesn't make sense at all. And talking about the FOV and the distortion that these lenses create, I have to go back of what I said during my first impression video, because the things are very similar. I actually stand on that directly, because It's not perfect. Don't expect to be the perfect visual in that FOV like you have in real life. That is not the case. But I don't know if I'm getting used to it and it's getting a little better, or that was a faulty unit and now I have a better unit over here. But I have to say that the situation is a little better right now. So what I want to say is, if you have to read something on the over the 110 degrees, the 120 degrees, pretty much that regular Fresnel lenses create, well, there you're gonna have a problem, because you are gonna have to close an eye anyway to then focus on it. Because with the regular vision, if you just turn your eyes around, well, that is not gonna be enough, and the part is gonna be blurred, and the last part of the FOV is gonna be even more blurred. So is this FOV usable? Is this good for visual? By the way, actually yes, it's very, very nice to have the possibility to see a wider thing, but you have to be aware that anyway, even if you have a wider view, you're gonna have always to turn your head around like you're doing right now with your usual VR headset, because nothing changed on it. Is there, is more, is usable, of course. You see images and everything, but are not so crisp, are not clear like you would expect or you will want, even if they're very, very nice to have there. But overall, I have to say, don't expect the best screen out there. This is an LCD display, so of course has its own limitation. But if you want the best FOV, the widest FOV, well, this is the only option. And I have to say, the screen is not so bad at the end of the day. It's completely enjoyable. The only thing, if you switch back and forth from one to the other, well, you notice right away in the part the difference in the FOV. They say, what the heck, where is that? And the other part you say oh, but these colors are not as good. Well, this is of course the trade-off that you have. I'm really, really curious to try the OLED version to see if this gets fixed and how it is, because if I stand right now, if I have to choose one or the other, if it wasn't for the price that we're going to talk about anyway in the full review, well, I will go right away on the OLED version, because OLED is just the technology that you want for VR. Anyway guys, I hope that it was useful to understand a little better the screen of this headset, and would I call it generation 2.0? Well, actually yes, because we have much, much more than all the other. This FOV is something that we're gonna see in the future, but is not the best iteration yet. It's like when you talk about smartphones and this flexible smartphone that are gonna come out in the future, well, this is the first smartphone. Is okay, is usable, but is not the best, is not gonna be the best, but we don't know how much we're gonna have to wait to have the same thing from other manufacturers. So yeah, this is the only option, and it stands pretty good to be the first option. So yeah, it's good. Anyway guys, thanks again. Ciao.